guess I mean, security is a big issue in the world of IT infrastructure anyway. But
yeah,
again, the home working situation, people got their own internet access, etc. Presume it's put extra strain on the security aspect, because a lot of companies maybe don't even know what devices their employees are using, how they're using them, etc.
yeah, and that's a real serious consideration. I know that we've over the last 3 or 4 months, many companies have just tried to make do with the situation. But if this is going to be a long-term strategy or a long-term requirement, I think businesses have to think hard and long about the kind of facilities that they give to the employee. I think we're already seeing a number of customers now developing a plan to roll out better home working facilities for their employees. So giving them dual screens, giving them the kind of facilities they would enjoy when they work in the office. So it's not just a kind of attitude when you did work from home. It was okay, well, you could possibly work with a laptop on your in the conservatory on your lap, or it's like a casual type of picking up emails. We're going to see a different kind of working demand where you're going to have a proper office kind of setup, and in that instance as well, we know lots of companies have seen users struggling with their home broadband connections because of whether it's just poorly delivered, it's too highly contended. And we are already seeing our customers exploring putting in dedicated lease lines and dedicated connectivity, so that it's away from that local broadband experience when kids are home downloading and watching TV on Netflix and Amazon and everything else, that there is a dedicated circuit for that employee to work on. And that way you can actually ensure that the security is improved upon. One of the flaws that most businesses don't or haven't actually thought about from security is just simple things like, if you've got a broadband router, most employees won't have thought about changing simply the password on the broadband router. It will have been supplied with the out-of-box password that whether Sky or TalkTalk or whoever delivered it, and that's going to be simple things like that are going to be security flaws. And then obviously then much bigger considerations will need to be implemented around proper encryption and better policies on how to access systems from home so it's fully protected from data breaches and so forth.
And I guess there's the balance, or not a balance, but there's two things to this. There's obviously the technology for making infrastructure secure. There's also the people, as you say, because I guess if you go into the office, maybe a lot of people just assume it doesn't matter what I do because there's somebody there, watching and making sure I don't do anything I shouldn't. In home, clearly there may not be that same level of supervision. So people need to be educated, as you say, whether it's changing the password on the router or whatever it is, just explained a bit more about security and what they can and can't do.
Yeah, correct, Phil. I mean, when you're in the office, companies have spent years implementing standards, policies, procedures of how you would act and operate within an office environment. And you sort of fall into maybe a false sense of security where you feel safer working in an office environment because you feel that all of those protections and those defenses have actually been built in for you. Now you're working from home and you won't have any of that security wrap around you. So I think you have to be more conscious around the kind of basic things, even simple things like clean desk policies that companies do or do not implement. At home, most people won't have that kind of mentality around clean desk policies and so forth. So, there are risks that are being introduced into home working, which are clearly unforeseen and unplanned, and businesses have to look at that. You know, we've implemented risk assessments, you know, for home, both on health and safety requirements, but also from security perspectives as well. So I think companies will have to bring that into play. And if they haven't, they will have to do that moving forward, to particularly meet some of the standards that they will want to continue to adhere to. And that is, if it's 9001, 27001, all the other kind of security standards and quality standards that exist, businesses will have to bring into play around home working now more seriously.
And in terms of the technology, you did allude to zero trust. I mean, that's a growing area, so it'd be good to understand a bit about that. And then I know things like multi-factor authentication, people are beginning to push as a logical way of managing security. Can you just talk us through those sort of newer ideas and anything else that might be on the horizon?
Definitely. So for me, multi-factor authentication or two-factor authentication is just an absolute must. If you haven't got that, then, you know, you just get it, you know, get it somehow. You know, Microsoft are delivering it practically for free. There's very, very inexpensive two-factor solutions out there in the market. You know, there's no excuse not to have two-factor authentication in any environment. You know, you wouldn't expect to go to the bank and take out money out of the wall if you didn't have some kind of PIN access. And that's similar to how all the banks are rolling out, you know, payment systems and so forth online, that you have to have some kind of second way of actually evidencing and authenticating who you are. So why wouldn't you have that in your own environment, in your own business? So that's just a really simple tick in the box, and that would actually raise your security profile by about 50% in one go. You know, that will prevent a lot of potential attacks, even from phishing attacks and all kinds of things like that. So that's a must. But on the subject of zero trust, that is certainly a growing sort of security model and a way of actually thinking of how to re-architect businesses. And that's really based on what I believe anyway. And lots of people have slightly different interpretations. But for me, it's certainly around about strong user and device identity. And that's the key. It's two things. It's actually making sure that you can put in place strong user identity and maybe one single identity platform. But then also you need to make sure that you have good controls, good surveillance systems, good monitoring systems around device identity, so that you can marry the two. And the two actually are separate as well. They don't go hand in hand, because if you have the ability to log into a network from wherever you are, that's one example of user identity. But then you also make sure that anything that connects to your network is fully authenticated. You know who it is, what it is. You actually do some cyber hygiene on that device as well, checking that it's updated with any patching, any antivirus, any malware. You know that what it is, what device it's from, and where it sits in the network as well. Is it actually from home? Is it in some kind of cafe? Is it in the office? So that you have some greater surveillance and monitoring capability, so that you can tie all this together. And added to that, then you need to bring in some cyber surveillance capability, and also maybe a SOC team, whether that's your own SOC team or you reach out to a third-party provider, because you really need to know what's going on a minute-by-minute, second-by-second basis now, because there's so much disruption and there's so much going on out there in the internet. There's vulnerabilities and threats emerging every single day, and new ones as well, new advanced threats, which businesses are struggling to defend against.